Seminole Nation. Welcome back to another episode of the Renegade Rundown. As always, I've got my beautiful co-host, Jen Santee, aka Jen Santee 1890. You guys can go follow her on X. Of course, she's right here with me for every episode of the Renegade Rundown, right here at the Renegade Report on YouTube. We've got a special member, new member of the show, my guy Kirky over here. We had a fan send us in this blown up cardboard. It's actually about 4 feet, if you can see, the way my background is back there, the size of my hand up there on his forehead. So we're going to make sure this thing gets to Dublin, and Kirky there with his face paint made up for his favorite Bammers over there. It sure is a cute, nice addition. I'm going to have to get it worked up better, hung up here. But shout out to that guy, and if I can figure out his name, I had it on the tip of my tongue. We'll give him props before the show is up. But today is all about conference realignment. It's all about FSU versus ACC. Initially, I was just going to talk to you guys about Friday, about Florida State's motion. Unfortunately, when the ACC brought their suit in North Carolina, if you're not up to date on this thing, there's 2 suits going on. Florida State, as they prepared to file suit in Florida to exit the grant of rights, and therefore the conference, the Atlantic Coast Conference, tried to preemptively file in the state of North Carolina. Well, in order for them to file, you have to have, I believe, a 2/3 vote from the ACC to go to court and preemptively sue or sue in any regard a member institution of said Atlantic Coast Conference, which is supposed to be built up and governed kind of by its members. But we've got breaking news, guys. Just today, like I said, as I was getting ready for the show notes and for the production meeting with Jen, I'm searching Scribd, looking through the different motions, and one pops up from yesterday, either yesterday or first thing this morning. The Atlantic Coast Conference has filed another motion in Florida before the April 9th hearing is scheduled to actually begin, when the judge actually rules on all this stuff and what discovery will be permitted, et cetera, et cetera. They filed the 41 objections to discovery in this new filing dated March 11th, Jen. 41. And when you go through, I'm trying to get my laptop set up where we can go through and at least read a couple pages of this thing. It's unreal. The things they go through, and they make out that shouldn't be discovery. It's like either the statute of limitations has run out or it's premature.
Yeah.
So apparently there's nothing in there that meets that Goldilocks condition for them.
The majority of their stuff they're saying is premature. So they're saying all discovery from Florida State being excluded from the college football playoff. That's interesting. All discovery from Swofford and Raycom is off limits. You have a second screen up. I'm not sure what happened. There we go.
Okay.
So all these interesting things, and anything that makes the ACC look bad, isn't that funny? They're like, hey, this is kind of premature. Let's not do this. We can't do that. Or they'll say it's not relevant, or they'll use that wonderful phrase called "it's a fishing expedition." That is an attorney's favorite thing to use. Is this is a fishing expedition? Yes, most discovery requests are. That's exactly what they are. Good idea. That's exactly what they are. They want you to cast a net and get what you get, and you don't throw a fit, right? We learned that in kindergarten.
You get what you get, and you don't talk shit. It's pretty hilarious, kind of. Just the fact that every single thing, the way they lay it out when you go through, as we get through this thing and we go through all their 41 objections, it's basically saying, that the ACC just decides every definition in the dictionary. They decide every legal precedent. It's basically like, how dare Florida State come with this lawsuit? It's like, well, these things, it's been too long. These things, it's not been long enough. Well, all of these things, these are covered by trade secrets. These are, and it's pretty unbelievable, the level of it. And it pretty much lays out there for everybody in the world to see, thanks to Scribd, thanks to Sunshine State laws, thanks to FOIA requests and things of this nature. It lays out for Clemson. It lays out for all these different schools exactly where to poke, exactly where to look, exactly where the skeletons are buried by the degree of their disdain and the kind of wording in there. I feel like the wording is so pompous and so ridiculous that this judge is going to look at it and be like, you got to be shitting me. You're basically, it's like when you're in high school and the teacher gets mad at the student and they march him up to the dean's office. You're going to give him 3 licks and then 5 days of out of school suspension, and then we'll see if he can have a hearing to come back. Well, as soon as that teacher leaves, the door gets slammed and the dean is madder at the teacher than he was at the kid. I've gotten out of trouble like that at school, because it's like, don't tell me how to do my job. The school hired me to be the dean, and that's what I do. I dole out discipline. You tell me what happened, and that's where we go from there. And of course, this is court, so objections are fine. But the degree of this, and we'll get into it as I get it pulled up, the 41 different objections, it's pretty unreal. And one of the ones we can start out that our audience absolutely loves and we've talked about a lot is, what did they have in there about the Swafford family?
So, because I guess what they were saying is something that Raycom is not something that is really a viable company, a competitive company anymore, that it's not really relevant to use. But my thing is and this is where I think the ACC falls into it. You know, corporations or personal employers will use what we like to call, NDAs, right? And you can't sit there and sexually harass a woman the whole time she works for you and then say, oh, well, you signed an NDA, you can't talk about it. You can't do illegal behavior and then say, well, this document you signed tells you can't talk about it. So, whatever, have fun, enjoy your new life. That's not how it works at all. Just like with the ACC, they can't sit there and say these are trade secrets when you haven't been completing your fiduciary duties. You cannot sit there and do wrong and then say, oh, well, these are trade secrets. You can't say anything about it. We were out wilding. We didn't do a dang thing we were supposed to be doing. We've been blowing money on ourselves and buying, shrimp, lobster dinners every night, billing it to the ACC. But you know what? That's fine. But you can't say anything about this. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. And so you can't sit here and look at these documents and then them say, oh, well, that's not really a relevant company anymore. Or what did they use for Raycon? It was like, this isn't a competitive company. They said something like that. And then what would they said? It was defamation. Somebody said defamation on Swafford, which I thought was just wild. Let's see. That was probably like the Monty show or something. What was the other one that the ACC was whining about in that? They've mentioned the discovery from ESPN, from the college football playoff, from revenue sharing, from voting. They want all that stuff taken out. Who's allowed to vote, even though they've said Notre Dame can't vote? We don't have any proof of that because we know for a fact Notre Dame voted, right?
Absolutely.
So that's my thing.
Almost there, I'll be able to answer your questions on that stuff.
They want all the documents that make them look bad to come out. That's what they want.
Yeah, the degree
it's not relevant.
To which they went with this thing is just absolutely unreal. It's so far beyond, any burden of proof or anything that's like, there's nothing in there that's like, oh, okay, well, you can really see where it's something that is unnecessary. Basically, they try to break down every definition and say that Florida State is one of the things they like to say is that it's untenable. It's undue stress on their system. Like they're pretty much asking for every document that ever existed, every cell phone, every this, every that. They keep saying over and over again that it's too broad, unduly burdensome, and oppressive, particularly but not exclusively to the extent they demand that the defendant ACC identify or describe all documents, communications, persons, or things listed in any request, or seek similar sweeping categories of information, seek range of information and documents neither relevant to any claim or defense in this matter, and impose obligations on the defendant, ACC, that are disproportionate to the needs of genuine discovery. And that's what they just keep coming back to. Anything that FSU asks for, and according to their filing, is not genuine discovery. It's undue. It's, but that's just not how it is. We all know the case.
But,
they're not going to get every single thing thrown out. They're going to have to meet in the middle somewhere. And that's where the hearing is for. But This stuff, this just reeks desperation, and to me, it really just circles how screwed FSU, or not FSU, the ACC is, especially with a Clemson school who just decided recently to leak information, about that they've been getting ready for the past couple of years. They've been gearing up, especially the past couple of months, for litigation when this thing goes through, especially when there's a national conversation and all these things going on with the NCAA, with the college football playoff. That's another date that has came out. ESPN has to exercise their date of February 2025. Guys, that's less than a year. Like, we're already past February. So just as soon as the season's over, ESPN has to decide whether they're taking this thing through 2036 or 2027 with the ACC. And when that happens, ball game. That's where the rubber meets the road, because the ESPN isn't going to pay the ACC like FSU is going to be there through 2036, because it's just not going to happen. By that time, by 2025, if what we think is going to happens, they're going to be gone.
Yeah, and I also think to watch for that March 22nd date as well, because that's going to be your North Carolina hearing. Either they could dismiss that one or they could stay it. My guess is they're going to stay it. Either one is a win for Florida State.
Let the folks know why it's such an important date for the
so
people
that's jurisdiction.
We've got a lot of folks in here.
Yeah, that's jurisdiction right now just for the North Carolina court. The North Carolina court is going to look at this, and they're looking at the motion that the ACC, I want to say North Carolina, but I mean, I guess it's one and the same, ran and filed at the courthouse before Florida State ever sued or did anything. That was the rush to the courthouse motion. So basically Florida State filed and said, hey, wait, they sued for something that we hadn't done yet. They filed a lawsuit. This was a rush just to get the lawsuit in first. This was a jurisdiction grab, or at least a try to. And also North Carolina was supposed to get that 2/3 vote, which they did not do. Or ACC, sorry. Again, I did it again. It's a mental thing. I can't help it. But so they didn't do that, and they didn't do it until January. And then they put it on record in January that they did actually get that vote to sue Florida State, one of its members. So one, the ACC broke their own bylaws by filing that lawsuit without getting that vote. And two, they really sued based on something that hadn't happened yet, or filed a lawsuit based on something that hadn't happened yet. So I do think this is going to be, I think the better shot is it's going to be state, but I think they could dismiss it that day. And if it gets dismissed that day, this thing's getting tried in Florida. And then you're going to see a settlement real quick. I even think if they do a stay, you could see a settlement. I do. So I think this is a huge court date. And I think it's something that's being a little overlooked. So guys, keep an eye on that. Circle it on your calendar. We may go live that day. We don't know. Who knows? We'll see. Could be a fun one.
Absolutely.
So
March
that's
22nd is going to be huge, because
I think March 22nd is. Yeah, I was just saying, I just think it's a little overlooked. That's all.
No, go ahead, please.
I know. I was just going to say, because even if they stay it, that's a win, because I think they're gonna stay it to see what the Florida court decides. And my guess is if they stay it, they're gonna go with what Florida decides if they have jurisdiction or not.
Absolutely, and that leads me perfectly into this thing. I'm going to read the introduction, let you guys see this introduction, and have it as a reference point to come back to tell everybody about. It's pretty unreal, this whole thing. So we'll get it ready here. This is the Atlantic Coast Conference's objections that we told you about. 41 different objections, and we'll go through the different ones. We're not going to read all this, of course, but I'm going to read the introduction, and we'll go through the kind of highlight points of the 41 different objections to basically every piece of discovery that Florida State or the state AG Moody requested. This court lacks personal jurisdiction over defendant Atlantic Coast Conference. Basically what Jim was just talking about. One of the biggest things, the basis of all their claims here in Florida, and even in North Carolina with Florida State's motions to dismiss and things of that nature, they're saying that Florida, it's not the court of precedence. Florida State doesn't have the right to be asking these things for discovery in Florida State court, which we all know to be false, and we all, pretty much expect Florida to end up being the court of note And we will find that out very soon if we're going to get it off the bat, March 22nd, when that date comes up in the North Carolina court. But back to this document. The venue is improper in this court, and at minimum, Florida law requires staying this case pending resolution of a North Carolina lawsuit between the parties. There's wishful thinking by the ACC, if I ever saw it. Ask backwards if you ask me. Although the ACC raised these arguments at the earliest possible opportunity in its pending motion to dismiss, or alternatively to say, plaintiff Florida State Board of Trustees has nevertheless propounded multiple discovery requests, none of which are material to resolving the ACC's threshold defenses and requests for a stay. Moreover, and contrary to its actions in this matter, FSU agreed to the stay discovery and the pending North Carolina action in a jointly filed case management report on March 4th, 2024. But because FSU objects to the staying discovery here, notwithstanding its different position in North Carolina, the deadline for submitting objections and responses to FSU's discovery request will fall before the court can hear the ACC's motion to dismiss or alternatively to stay on April 9th, 2024. Accordingly, the ACC submits these objections to FSU's request for production. These requests pursuant to the Florida Rules of Civil Procedure, blah, 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 blah. So basically, like I was saying earlier, the gist of this thing so far is, we can, but you can't. We can, but you can't. Well, since we made you defend this over here and you agreed to this motion over here, now you can't make any motions over here. It's like, yeah, I don't see, I'm not a lawyer. But from the people I've talked to and stuff, this stuff purely plays out and is for the media. So we're doing our part, getting out here and reading this thing. And again, thanks to Thom H. Miller. That's my guy who sent the Kirk head. He's crying over in the corner as we explain this stuff to you guys. Tony Rodriguez from Jersey in the house. We appreciate you. Tony Soprano's cousin. We love it. We love it. But the rest of this thing, including but not limited to the objection to the exercise of personal jurisdiction over the ACC in the state courts of Florida, its objection that the venue is improper in this court, and its objection that claims brought by FSU either are not ripe or simply fail to state a legal cause of action, and its request that this court stay this case. In addition to the ACC's pending motion to stay the entire case, and contemporaneously with the service of these objections, the ACC has filed a motion to stay discovery, and these objections do not and are not intended to waive or prejudice either motion. Now, and you'll notice how they do this in each paragraph. They contradict themselves. So previously they were saying, oh, well, since Florida State did this in North Carolina, that kills their chances. They can't do discovery here. They can't do this. And then out of the same breath, on the same, the very paragraph after it, oh, well, since they put this one little thing, they're not intending to waive or prejudice either motion. What they say in the Florida court, it can't alter what happens in the North Carolina court. Only for you, not for me. And this is a common thing we found throughout this thing. When you look at Florida State's arguments, when you look where Florida State's asking for, they're asking for specific things, situations, reasons, fiduciary responsibilities, all these different things. Pretty much everything that ACC is doing is just playing right down the middle of a book, just saying a bunch of legal jargon and basically it seems like hoping and praying. I really wish I would have went and became a lawyer and actually did this because this thing is a lot of fun. And we'll read a little bit of this. The ACC objects to these requests on the ground they are premature based on it. We're going to go down here to the actual paragraphs that we want to look at. The actual different. It gets into an itemized account of all the different things they don't want us getting into.
Anything that makes us look bad. Anything that makes us look bad and looks like we've been irresponsible. There you go. That's what they want to be kept out.
Yeah.
Jim Phillips' private trips with old Boo, maybe. Maybe his paid vacation, his private jets with old Boo Corrigan. That's what I would guess. I mean, I wouldn't want that stuff to be made public either if I were them.
Here we go. So here's their specific objection. Sorry for the wait. Leave it hanging there, Jen. But this is the really funny stuff. This is where you get into basically the ACC is spelling out exactly where it hurts, and it hurts all over, folks. All documents and communications with Attorney General of Florida related to her public records request as of January 4th, 2024, and all documents requested by her. That was a pretty sweeping thing, that entire giant dossier that she did, wanting to know, why FSU was left out of the playoff, what the ACC did about it, what promises were made, what, things were broken. None of that. That's all wiped out in one request, one objection here. Request number 2 that they're objecting to: the ACC's annual operating budgets from 2010 to present. So they don't want none of that. Let's see. It says this discovery is premature in this matter, overly broad and unduly burdensome. And that's what you'll see a lot in most of these. And this is basically what I was talking about in this paragraph here. They go on to say that the early years are past the statute of limits and the most recent years are within the statute of limitations. So it's premature. So it's like, I'm not sure when the ACC expects these specific things. Maybe there's one document that we asked for that falls perfectly into the Goldilocks range, but I highly doubt it. Request number 3, all documents and communications related to the negotiation and execution of the following agreements with ESPN: the multimedia agreement in 2010, the extended agreement in 2012, the second amendment to the agreement in 2014, the next one in 2016, and the restated multimedia agreement on the same date, the Tier 1 agreement. Next, another one later that year, July 21st, 2016, between ESPN and the ACC. This has to do with when Raycom comes into the picture and they want to build the ACC Premier Network. That never happened, or didn't happen until 5-10 years later. And that's when we get the next one. And August 10th, 2021, between ESPN and ACC. So yeah, pretty much every single time they went to the table, the entire subject of this entire case, yeah, that's all irrelevant, all erroneous, and they say the same thing here, same exact thing.
So
premature,
I guess
attorney-client privilege, statute of limitations.
Yeah, I think Florida State could argue their way out of the statute of limitations, because someone can correct me if I'm wrong. If this has to do with the Swafford Raycom stuff with the statute of limitations, which is what I'm guessing they're referring to, considering that's still an ongoing thing and it's still being covered up because that documentation is being kept locked away, where nobody can see it. So that could be an ongoing, it could be argued as an ongoing cover up, depending on what judge you argue it in front of, which means there is no statute of limitation.
Just all the different negotiations, but the Swafford stuff is coming as well, believe me.
But yeah, no.
It wraps into it. It all wraps together. Like they would like you to think it doesn't, but it does.
Yeah, and that's where I was going with it, is where they say the statute of limitations, because the statute of limitations can be worked around if it is an ongoing cover up. So if you're sitting here paying someone off to say, hey, I was with this person at 10 o'clock at night, the statute of limitations on maybe a burglary or an assault of some kind can be worked around. If you are paying this person off every year to keep this going, keep this cover up going, that means there is no statute of limitations because the crime has been ongoing because of you see what I'm saying? So that's where I'm saying, I just think that's a ridiculous argument if they continue to keep all this documentation locked away and things being covered up and all these things. So I don't know. I don't know what their deal is. I know they want a lot of money to keep. They don't want to keep Florida State. They just want a lot of money.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And also, I just read all those different dates. It's not just the stuff that's past the statute of limitations. They were just bargaining this thing a couple years ago in 2021. And every time they sit at the table, they open the same book. It's the same contract that has been amended and renegotiated over and over again. So you can't just say, oh, well, everything on the contract past a certain date gets redacted. No, we want to see the damn contract. We want to see the negotiations. We want to see how the thing evolved. You've got to be able to match timestamps of, communications that Florida State already has that they don't need, communications between Florida State and the ACC, and when these negotiations are going on, and we can match whether the ACC represented the truth. Lying isn't a trade secret, guys. Basically, that's what they're saying. Oh, well, we bullshitted you back in the day, and yeah, your president might have been in on it and all that stuff, but we can't see that because it's too long ago. And since we bullshitted you, that doesn't matter. You can't prove it. We're not going to allow you to. It's ridiculous. And this next one has me fired up, and it's another big one here. Request number 6, the 6th document they don't want to let us see. All documents and communications related to the ACC's efforts to determine the enterprise cost of member withdrawal, including without limitation in connection with the September 13th, 2001 and September 12th, 2012 amendments to the ACC Constitution. Okay, so this is about Maryland and their exit from the ACC. If you remember,
and this also is not going to fly.
Yeah, absolutely. If you remember back then, the ACC, Maryland was like Nostradamus. They knew to go to the Big Ten. They got out. They did all this stuff, laid the tracks. They had their final year, got blown out 62 to zip by Florida State, and then they went off. And look, they're in an amazing spot. But basically, all this stuff is here is they don't want FSU to be able to get the discovery to find out any of the workings to do with that exit. And also, I could be mistaken, and that could be a later one. This could be to do with Big 12s.
I think it has to do with both. It has to do with both.
It has to do with both. Yeah.
It has to do with
their
both.
objection is the same as the rest, guys. It's cookie cutter, each and every one. Objects to the request to the extent the plaintiff is a member of the ACC and receives such information in the ordinary course of its membership. Therefore, much of the information sought by the request is equally available to FSU. Just a bunch of BS.
Yeah, and for me, this is why this is just not going to fly. You cannot sit here and take out the whole the ACC Constitution because of amendments. That means it is a live document. This is a document. The amendments it's opening. It's a new clock on the statute of limitations crap that they're talking about. And you get to go back, because if you don't get to go back and look at this Constitution prior to amendments, you don't get to see the full context of the document. And I don't understand how they can say this should be taken out. This makes no sense to me at all. So if somebody else can tell me what their legal basis would be to take this out, because it doesn't matter if it has to do with Maryland. It doesn't matter if it has to do with ESPN or the Big 12 or whichever document. This was the ACC Constitution with amendments that were updated. This document is relevant. There's no way around it.
Absolutely. And another banger that I can't wait to see. Competitive market analysis from March 7th, 2013. A presentation by the ACC's media consultant and all documents related to it, including without limitation all documents and communications relating to the affirmative representation therein that if it is determined that an ACC network can be successful, ESPN has indicated that it will do a deal on the same terms and conditions as it has with the SEC on the SEC network, as well as the terms and conditions of the ESPN SEC network agreement. So basically, if you what that says is Florida State is alleging that, and what we all heard, Bud Elliott and those guys at Tomahawk Nation at the time wrote about all this. You can go back into their vault if they still have it all available, where they talked about all these things. The ACC was selling a lie that the ACC could do the same as the SEC, and it's apples to apples, and they're going to work this out, and we need to sign this thing. Every time this thing went through, it's like, we need to lock it up long term. It's going to work out. Look, we're betting the SEC right now. This is big. But it was a reset the market for like 6 months, and then just completely handicapped. This was all a lie. The network never even came to be. They finally agreed to make the thing 3 years after this, and then finally launched it 5 years later on 2020, 2021, I believe. It's like it never had the opportunity. SEC network was going way back then. It was launched, and that was it. It ran the entire time. How could it possibly compare? How could it possibly do anything close to the type of ratings? It didn't exist. And their excuse for this is a bunch of the same old stuff. There's nothing new. Basically saying it's all either statute of limitations or premature. So I don't understand how it can be both. To the extent this request seeks information that is confidential and or protected as a trade secret. That's another thing
There you go.
time. Trade secrets. Apparently contracts that you're party to are trade secrets. It's the craziest shit ever. Where Florida State is party to 100 different contracts that seal their fate and go against things they're saying, but they think they're going to get them all stopped. There's just no way. All documents and communications, including full and complete copies of agreements themselves and all drafts thereof, related to the 2013 grant of rights, referred to in the amended complaint as the ACC grant of rights. I'm not going to read that one. That's nothing. 2016, when they amended the grant of rights and they brought in, this is when the ACC network deal with Raycom was made and all that. They got a pretty short objection here. Same things. Nothing new on here. Trying to get to the good ones. There's a couple really good ones more, and then we'll drop this off and just get to
the right to privacy. They claimed a right to privacy in that Raycom Swofford deal, which does not even fall into a right to privacy, by the way.
Absolutely.
That is a public company. That is a public company, and yeah, I can't with that one.
Here's a good one. Number 10. All documents and communications related to the ESPN ultimatum described in the amended complaint, including paragraphs 118 and 119.
Of course.
Now, just the fact. Now, just the fact. And this thing is tiny. And you notice it's tiny because I guess they didn't want to dig any holes. They didn't want to say anything extra. They did not want to put anything out there that would point for a new place for FSU to jab or stick the knife. But I want you to think about this and how this is far and away the shortest one. All documents and communications related to the ESPN ultimatum described in the amended complaint, including paragraphs 118 and 119. So basically, this thing they're saying that doesn't exist, that never happened, that Florida State is lying about, you don't get to look at it. So just let that soak in.
Trust me, bro.
Damning to me. Maybe somebody can read that shit different than me, but that's trust me, bro.
Yeah.
Oh my God! But why would it be in there?
If
there was that even be needed to be a request? My word.
It's truly amazing. It's like, hey, let's not get the internet talking about conspiracy theories and like just put bullshit like this in. It won't get anybody riled up at all. Like you could just not say anything.
Yeah.
Because you know this is going to get left in because when you're suing based off these reasons, the Constitution has to be in. The group's Constitution that you keep referring to as being a signed document has to be in. And I don't understand. I don't understand it. The ESPN ultimatum, which is the whole point of the grant of rights. Like, what are you talking about? What are you? Again, anything that makes you look bad should be taken out.
Pretty much. Like, if they had it their way, they wouldn't be providing anything. But I will give them the benefit of that. I will let you know their arguments here. They bring up attorney-client privilege. Again, I'm not sure exactly how that works, how that fits in here, but that right of privilege or protection, they object to this request. Again, overly broad and unduly burdensome. So I guess just any paperwork, if you ask them to go get anything, it's just like, woo. They've got some dude in there that's 168, and boy, if you make him walk more than 3 or 4 feet, it's done. They object to the phrase in itself surrounding the ESPN ultimatum in reference to paragraphs 118 and 119. And of course, imagine that. They say it's vague and ambiguous, even though they know exactly, like the exact date and kind of time of when this happened. So yeah, again.
Okay. Let's discuss this attorney-client privilege. What are they talking about? Are they saying that as the ACC, which attorney, what attorney-client privilege are they enforcing here? Because anytime the attorney's in the room with more than one party who is not their client, that breaks the privilege. Okay. And my guess would be ESPN was in the room with their attorney, the ACC was in the room with their attorney. And are you saying that Florida State has no right to this information and has no right, because you're supposed to represent them? So how is Florida State, who I guess could sign away or waive their attorney-client privilege? What are you talking about?
Yeah, the only thing I can think there is that somehow they managed to have, let's see here, some kind of arbitration somewhere along the line to where attorney-client privilege got injected in there. But I'm with you. It makes no sense
I
whatsoever
just
to me.
when you're allowed to negotiate on Florida State's behalf, your attorney-client privilege does not apply to Florida State. They're the client as well. That's why I don't understand it. What are you talking about? Because technically Florida State was the client, and whatever attorney-client privilege discussions that you're talking about that you had with ESPN. Now, if there wasn't anything fishy about said discussions, then release them to your client.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I just have thoughts,
No, absolutely. I love it. And we've got 30 more to get through. And I just have no idea what to add on that one, because just, what I said is about it on that. But if you have more on it, keep going.
Yeah, no, that whole paragraph is crazy to me. And I would love to get an actual attorney on here, because to me, when you have somebody who is supposed to be acting on your behalf, and that person now is saying, oh, well, I can't give you information that I talked about, and you certainly can't release it because it's attorney-client privilege. But when they're allowed to act on your behalf, you're the client.
Absolutely. I agree 100%.
So only the client can waive attorney-client privilege. I don't care if it makes the ACC look bad. The ACC is negotiating by part of their members. Florida State is fully allowed as a member to be considered a client, and based on their own behalf could then waive their privilege. I could absolutely be wrong here, but I don't think so. And I think you could argue your way out of it. Easy.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. And on to the next one. Request number 11. This one's pretty hilarious, just like the rest. All documents and communications from January 1st, 2015 from present related to the ACC bylaw, from January 1st to present, including without limitation to any deliberations or discussions related thereto in connection to the decision of the ACC to extend ESPN 9-year option described in the amended complaint, including paragraphs 135 and 152. So Florida State basically alludes to the fact in their lawsuit, and as we've talked about, that 9-year option was never realistic. The terms of that and the negotiations around that did nothing for Florida State whatsoever. It was purely done for these other people, and it's kind of a false security. Well, we can't look into that either, Jen. So that's also protected by attorney-client privilege right here.
I think
again.
I think they're calling attorney-client privilege stuff that makes us look bad. I think that's what they've renamed it. I think they misspelled stuff that makes us look bad. Because attorney-client privilege, I'm sorry, I just don't think it applies. So I think it really means this makes us look bad, so take it out.
Yeah, that's exactly what it means. And this next one, and we're going to speed this up. We promise we're not going to have a 13-hour show.
Yeah, sorry, guys.
This thing. But request number 12. All documents and communications related to Raycom Sports Partnership described in the amended complaint, including paragraphs 29 through 46. So 29 through 46, that's 15, 16, that's 17 paragraphs of discovery and things Florida State asked to and alleged in their filing that all drafts, anything relating to ESPN and Raycom, they're fighting that. And it's basically the same exact cookie cutter response You kind of figured this would all be in here, but some of this stuff is just like, what are they? It's just swinging for the fences. There's no way. And here's my favorite one of the entire thing. All documents and communications related to any determination or failure to make any determination by the ACC as to whether John Swafford had a conflict of interest with respect to the Raycom Sports Partnership described in amended complaint, including in paragraphs 29 through 46. So this one's really interesting. They're not denying that there was conflict of interest. They're basically, what it makes it sound like to me is that they're worried that it's basically in their own documents that they came to find out afterwards. Possibly, maybe that's why Swafford got fired, something like that. But if those documents, if they exist, again, this is here, and they're arguing that they don't want these documents to be seen, and that, you know, this is discovery, they're objecting to it. So there's nothing there, guys. But you can't see any of the stuff that has to do with Raycom and John Swafford, because that's personal. And again, it's the same drivel, nothing new here. Attorney-client privilege, the work product doctrine, yada yada yada. Nothing new there. It's pretty.
Again, it's proof of them negating their fiduciary responsibilities. This is not premature. Like, Florida State absolutely spells out that they did not meet their fiduciary responsibilities. They absolutely do in their lawsuit. So this is a part of that. And I don't know. Okay.
Let them know, man. I love it. Number 14, and I lied. This is actually my favorite one, because this is like real. Like, so to figure out all the different discovery that they're not going to allow going forward, you got to go and you got to plug John Swafford into Ancestry.com, and then you got to figure out who they're all married to, all the kids, all the grandparents, all the parents. You got to plug them into Ancestry.com, and then you can figure out all different people we're not allowed to subpoena or have any discovery or any communications with. Because this one says all documents and communications related to Raycom on the one hand, so anybody that has anything to do with Raycom, and on the other, John Swafford and any relative by blood or marriage to John Swafford, including without limitation Chad Swafford nor William Swafford and Caitlin Swafford and the other. So when Florida State is like tries, you know, basically anything they asked for, anything in relation to anything relevant, no, we can't have that. We can't have that.
No. And I mean, that is, look at this. The ACC goes to bat for John Swafford more than they did their cash cow ever in 30 years. Can you believe that? Look at this.
16
look at this.
Championships.
Yeah.
Carrying the conference and television views. Even when we were
and
down,
here they are.
That's the
still
crazy part. Even when we had our down
going
5
to bat
years,
for them.
Clemson barely edged us.
Yeah. Going to bat for them. Just going to bat. Like, are you kidding?
Now, with this burden, seeing all these things, all the possible discoveries, everything they're so worried about, how intensive this case is. Think of how many filings we've had before we've had like the actual hearing, like the day in court.
Well, yeah, I mean, and it's going to get worse. It's going to get worse.
2 different states.
Oh, yeah.
What happens when Clemson files? Like, they're going to have to do this again in a whole nother state in Tennessee, plus in North Carolina again? How many stays can you have? I feel like you got NCAA 2.0. It's like, what did you think of the Dellinger report?
So one
leaving in the weeks. Do you think it's like soon we're going to get it, or it's wishful thinking?
I think after that March 22nd court date, you might. I think depending on how that goes. Look, if they get dismissed, if that case gets dismissed on March 22nd, look for Clemson to file that afternoon. If it gets stayed, look for the talk. I still think Clemson could file. I always enjoy the Clemsons, the North Carolinas, the Miamis of the world, which is whatever it is Miami's doing. Some people keep saying they are. I'm okay, but I love how they hold our purse while we take photos and we're the celebrities. I get it, but you don't do any of the work, so nobody cares. I'm guessing Clemson just got their little nudge, nudge, wink, wink. You might be included in the club.
Yeah.
Which is also why Miami is still quiet, guys. I'm sorry, Miami fans. Y'all hate when I say this, but it's just the truth. If Miami had an inkling as of right now that they would be in the Big 10 or the SEC, I can promise you they'd be doing the same thing Florida State's doing. I can promise it.
Without a doubt, I agree 100%. I think
because you need to make yourself available first. Mm-hmm. So that's
All
right. Let's go. What else we got?
What was I saying? Oh yeah, Clemson. I think Clemson saw the stuff with the college football playoff. That's a whole nother story we haven't even got to because we get going through all this. Basically, the college football playoff, and we'll go through it. I'm almost done. There's a couple more of these we're going to go through. We're going to exit.
Oh, we're good.
But their decision on the money and the splits and the buys and all that to do with pretty much the Big 10 and the SEC are going to be another class apart. And legitimately, you're going to have a power two, a group of two, and a lower group of two with the Sun Belt and the rest of those guys. I think they see the writing on the wall. And also, that date has come out through this proceedings. I don't know if we just missed it or I had talked about it and forgot, but through the college football story, the date of February 25th or February 2025 has came to date. That's when ACC has to decide. They're going to push this thing to 2036. ESPN has to exercise their option by then. And with Florida State in court, with the ACC in March going into April of 2023 or 2024, what do you think the odds of ESPN doing some big new deal and continuing through 2036 with the ACC are? It's not going to happen. So it's between now and 2025, and this thing crumbles, and they're going to get left with a bag in their hands. So that's why the rush came. I just don't know if it happens, like you said, maybe March 22nd. If something goes really our way, they do it. But I would like if they filed before March 22nd so that the judge sees, oh, shit, here we go. We got a whole nother case coming in. We might need to move on. But here's another one, request number 15. And we'll just call this the last one. We went through a ton of this thing. I'll put the link to scrib.com where you guys can go read the entire thing. And I'm going to exit off this, take a little break, and come back and open the line for phone calls. But again, number 15, all documents, including full and complete copies of the agreements themselves and all drafts hereof or communications related to the negotiation and execution of the following agreements with our best friends, Raycom. So they've already told us 10 ways from Sunday that they can't do any business with Raycom. All documents, but here they are again. So the first one of those different documents and communications is A, the Digital Rights Management Agreement dated as of July 2010 by and between Raycom Sports, Inc. and the ACC. So this is basically 2010. That's when I guess they finalized the agreement to go on with Raycom instead of ESPN when they redid their deal. This was the first chink in the armor of Florida State, or the ACC more like. This was when Florida State really realized that shit might be hitting the fan, and we started talking about it. Bud Elliott and Ingram Smith and those guys over there at Tomahawk Nation way back in the day were doing articles and talking about it. There's another date here, which is November 1st, 2019, by and between Raycom Sports Network and the ACC. Coming down to the next one. The next one says all documents and communications relating to any payments of money and or considerations made by Raycom to the ACC or by ACC to the Raycom since 2010. So basically, anything that has to do with the amount of money that the ACC has made, that the ACC has gotten paid from Raycom, paid to Raycom, anything that would point to pretty much anything that Florida State is alleging about the fact that they, weren't operating in Florida State's best interest, that's all bought out. But anyways, again, that's another one. from Raycom, the amount of money and consideration they earned off the media rights off the ACC members since January 1st. We can't know that. All documents between John Swofford and Raycom relating in any way to the media rights of the ACC members since January 1st. It's like, it's just ridiculous. We can't see what ACC talked to Swofford. We can't see what Raycom talked to Swofford. We can't see what ESPN talked to Swofford. We can't see what ESPN talked to ACC. We can't see what ESPN talked to Raycom. We can't see anything if the ACC gets their way. And the way in this thing that they just pretty much just attack and dismantle the way that Florida State does their business, knowing that Florida State does things the way it goes in Florida courts and knows their way around Florida courts. It just makes me think that this judge is really going to look at this shit and be like, who are y'all kidding? Like, this was really for the reporters, huh? Right? Like, you know, so we're going to go on and stop sharing this. But I'm going to let Jen go on a rant here for a little bit, and I'm going to switch my camera off as it dies here.
Okay.
We're going to open for calls and keep going and talking about all this stuff. But again, there's 2 or 3 things I haven't gone to. There's so much breaking news right now around the NCAA, around the SEC, and the Big Ten's college football playoffs, and around FSU's suit against ACC for the grant of rights, be it our filing that we just made on Friday in North Carolina, or the ACC's filing they just made yesterday in Florida, or the pending negotiations with the Big Ten and the SEC and the NCAA, as I spoke about. Just a ton of stuff going on. But give me 1 second. I will be right back when we get the calls coming.
Yeah. So before we get calls, I think we've gotten quite a few people asking about Clemson. What is Clemson's status? What is the status of, somebody joining Florida State? Well, right now we don't know. Right now we really have no idea. Do I think the ACC has a leg to stand on? I do. I think they do, because they do have a contract. They've got some things in their, I think Florida State's willing to pay them. I think that's the leg they have to stand on. I think the grant of rights is what they don't have to stand on, because it technically is not a document that goes till 2036. It's a document depending on what ESPN does, depending on what school is there, how much is it worth. And I think right now, Florida State would be fine getting out, paying that exit fee. And I think that's what they feel is legal. Now, I think that, I think the ACC is going to want to negotiate some of that grant of rights. And I think you're going to end up maybe getting out now for about $150 million, unless you want to keep going, and see if you can get it lowered. How did I first become an FSU fan? Well, yes, I'm from Tennessee. Hey, it's bad. Your sound is bad. Yeah. How did I first become a Florida State fan? I do live in Memphis. We travel to Destin all the time. We would go over to Tallahassee all the time. And that's when I started doing that, when I was 3 years old. So then it just kept on going from there. Yeah, I am from Tennessee. I live in Memphis. But I will be at the spring game. Who else is coming to the spring game? Are we excited about this? We're going to tailgate all together and have fun. I'm excited about that. But so, yeah, I think the other question was, what about the other teams? I think Clemson right now, you are now hearing things. I think that does mean that Clemson got a little wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I think Miami is quiet for a reason. I think North Carolina is talking. I think North Carolina always has been talking. But I think they might be a little bit more tied to NC State. And I also think North Carolina's chancellor is an SEC person. I think that if North Carolina leaves, they're going to leave for the SEC right now. Even though I think they fit in better in the Big Ten. But I think North Carolina probably needs to get out as soon as it can, if it can, before people realize that they're worthless, because they really don't do anything. The Tennessee drive to Florida is not bad. It's like 7 hours. Easy. Yeah, if you leave in the middle of the night, you can get there really quick, between 6 to 7 hours. It's not terrible. Yeah. I agree. I think it would be hilarious for UNC and the SEC. But I mean, they keep failing in the ACC. Why not just go fail in the SEC too? I mean, what's the difference? What do they care? They keep getting beat up in the ACC too. Imagine being the top dog in a conference and consistently not winning it. Like, or thinking you're the top dog, right? I
Who's
mean,
that?
like
Can you
North
hear me now?
Carolina. Yeah, we can hear you now. I was talking about like at North Carolina, imagine being what you consider the top dog in a conference, like the main member or whatever. They can't win a damn thing. They had a generational talent. And I'm telling you all, Mac Brown is a Florida State plant. I don't know who else needs to know this. That man cannot beat Mike Norvell. And I think he does it on purpose. Mac Brown loves him some Florida State. And he does this on purpose. I think he's been just tanking North Carolina. Like you can't make this shit up. I'm sorry.
I think he's just 100 million years old. I think he was done. At the end of Texas thing, he got another shot, and it's like he had that first charge. They got good recruiting. They got some quarterbacks in there, but he just doesn't have the energy to do it.
Did I just read what I thought I just read?
I don't know.
Did somebody in the chat say
all I
Ole
know
Miss
is
has
every
good
time
academics?
I start talking, he just.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I just read that Ole Miss has good academics. Okay, I've read it all. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Right. Let's talk about it.
No. You keep going with what you were saying because Ole Miss means nothing. Like it's just a worthless school. Nobody cares.
I agree. Let's see here. Guys, the phone number is up on the screen, 850-495-1906. If you have any questions, that is the line. We have been talking about all kinds of shit. We've been talking about the NCAA, the ACC, FSU, all this good stuff. One thing we haven't talked a ton on is what, Jen? Is there anything in particular you're wanting to get at besides Ole Miss's shit and Mac Brown's being 99 years old?
Is there anything?
As far as on the conference realignment, on the different motions and stuff? I know I kind of ran all that. I just really wanted to get through that one today.
Did I have anything else on that? No, I just wanted to, again, for anybody being like, what about Clemson? What about this team? You'll know more when they actually start coming out and saying anything because their quiet is telling you everything that you need to know. Like, if you don't see that, I can't answer any more questions about it.
What do you think about Clemson doing their leaks? Who do you think it was an administrator that leaked it? What do you think they were trying to gain by it? Gauge public outcry? What do you think they were going for there with leaking all that information to Ross Dellinger? Because it was obviously premeditated.
Well, this is
information he had.
When they leaked it, they leaked that Friday? Did they leak that Friday?
I believe so. It was right around the same time that Florida State
that's a usual Friday dump. That was a Friday dump that you give off to media members to get them talking for the weekend. That is a war of public opinion. And that is that's what they're doing. And they see that the ACC is losing this public opinion. If you're not a Duke or Wake fan, you're losing this. Like you're losing the court of public opinion. But that is exactly what they did. They dumped that. I think the leaks, again, is just to get the media talking. It's to see where they stand, what the temperature is of the people in the know.
Right.
And the only reason they would have the only thing they're doing is they're waiting on Florida State. They're allowing us to do all the work while they hold our purse. That's what they're doing. That's what they're I hate to break it to Clemson. And yes, Kirky needs his own seat. You should get him a seat.
Yeah,
you should get him a seat.
Florida State, they really hurt my feelings. Their fans know how to Twitter. And they talk shit about my takes all year long, and I just love Alabama, and you should see my butt plugs. I've got one that looks just like my nose, just
I know
like
you
my
did
head.
not just say that.
Kirky's on the set. It's kind of gotten dark, so my natural light isn't coming through the window anymore. You can't really see him. I'm gonna have to get a special LED just for Kirky here, so we can keep him lit up. Maybe put him up a little higher, something like that. But yeah, I think this coming out, we talked about on the show, UNC, Wake Forest, these different schools changing their stances. That's what they did. They changed their stance. They talked shit about Florida State for years, especially the heat really turned up last year when Michael Alford makes all these comments in the preseason during the media scrums on tour. It's a ton of fun, okay? And now them leaking this specifically about the part where they have been gearing up. They've been getting ready for months and years already, ready for this notion. I just think they're just waiting for Florida State to break through. That's all it's about. And go back to your date, our date of March 22nd. You're extremely confident. I'm praying my butt off that they stay it. They move it along. Something good happens. I think that's very true. I'm hoping, and this is, again, kind of a long shot, but what I'm hoping is that Clemson drops that bad boy somewhere here in the next 10 days, 9 days, preemptively, before that March 22nd court date, and that North Carolina judge has a chance to make a decision. Chances are 99% chance they're going to wait for that decision to be made and then choose how to move forward. But I would really love it if they would file suit and influence that decision. Because if they filed suit, it would change everything. They would have, obviously they're going to try to get their thing to South Carolina. It's in North Carolina. So a lot of stakes, a lot of moving pieces. And again, like Jen mentioned and people in the chat have talked about, they had that Magnificent Seven or whatever, North Carolina, Miami, Virginia, these teams. It's cool. I would love for all of them to come, but it's we're going to see. It's right now, everything we know is Florida State. So just the fact that, North Carolina and Wake Forest didn't put out feelers that they're talking to lawyers. They just said that something has to change. Clemson leaking out, they're getting ready for legislation is huge. I just wish they would get off the pot, Clemson. Quit playing both sides. Throw your hat in the ring.
North Carolina did do that, and then they had to go to their board of regents, their state regents board that can either break up North Carolina State. They have to do that first, which they did do that. Yes. So they actually have been publicly doing a lot more than Clemson has, but North Carolina's got a guaranteed landing spot no matter what. They can be in the ACC, they can be in the SEC, they can be in the Big 10. North Carolina has their pick. So I just, whether we like it or not, and I agree with a lot of people who say North Carolina's worthless. I think Duke's worthless, but we don't make these decisions. Duke is technically worthless. Basketball does not move the needle. They really don't.
No.
And there's somebody saying the Big Ten's going to grab them. No, they're not. If the Big Ten wanted to grab Duke and North Carolina, they would today. They don't. Yeah, Duke is more than. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say Duke is more than likely going to be stuck in the ACC, or they're going to join the Ivy League, which is probably where they belong anyway.
Grassy, this is my first time joining the live chat. We really appreciate you, man. Hit that like, hit the subscribe. We've got memberships, all kind of fun stuff. So we appreciate you joining the live chat. The phone number is also scrolling across the bottom of the screen, 850-495-1906. That's the number to the bat line or the Knoll line. We've got a Renegade line. We got to come up for a cool name for this shit, but this ain't kick. This ain't kick. We're we're for that next generation. We're trying to get more cool stuff, more physical representation for the younger crowd, the people that want to be able to click on chapters and watch certain spots. But we also love just dealing with our fan base and just talking to Knoll Nation and even other people from other Big Ten schools and things of that nature. But yeah, I agree, Jen. I think the big thing is it's like it goes in order of football. Basically, what you were saying and what I took out of what you're saying and what I believe is everything else is bullshit. It's what kind of money is around? What's your football program worth? How much are you investing? How many times have you won titles? So it goes Florida State, Clemson. Then you can argue Miami and whichever that jumble of the next 4 or 5 teams is, which one's next. But it's about Florida State, Clemson. So regardless of whether Clemson lands or Florida State lands, the fact of them just filing suit, getting the line of litigation, that's kind of what I'm getting at when I talk about North Carolina, when I talk about these NC State, these other teams. If they can just sue, I don't give a shit if they go Big 10. I don't care if they go ACC. I don't care if they go, FCS. It doesn't matter. But if they file suit, file suit, that's more pressure, and that's the more people you get in line, the better chance Florida State has of getting out, and for cheaper. And we're getting closer and closer. April 9th, guys. April 9th. We may see another back and forth of motions, but April 9th is when the real court date happens. And we don't really know what'll be at stake there until we find out what happens on March 2nd, because it could either be half of it or it could be the whole shebang. I mean, we could literally, if what Jen has predicted comes true, we could see talks, settlement talks, legitimate settlement talks between March 22nd and April 1st, which would be unreal. That would be ahead of everybody's expectations, our predictions. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I know I've kind of talked about it and predicted that hopefully around June, end of June, beginning of July, you start to have real talks and make something happen there. But what do you think? I guess I can put you on the spot now. With everything that's happened, what's your prediction? Like, if you had to put money
I think they're going to stay it. I think if you had me put money on it, I think they're going to stay it on March 22nd. And then I do think the Florida courts will rule for jurisdiction to be in Florida. That's what I would say right now.
No, I got you there. But what's your prediction on when the settlement happens is what I was asking. The timeline. Does it speed the things that have happened recently? Has it sped it up, lengthened it? How are you feeling on it?
No, I think we're going to get past that April. What's the date in April? Is it 16th?
We talking about the court date?
Yeah.
The court date's April 9th.
Yeah. Okay. So the April 9th, I think we're going to get past that April 9th court date, see what that judge determines in that ruling. And then that's when I think you're going to see the cascade of reports on settlement talks. That would be my prediction.
So you're saying April?
I still think they're going to play in the ACC in 2024. That is not something I'm predicting. But I'm saying it'll be.
I don't think you're missing the question here. My prediction is that we have a settlement. Like, we have to have a settlement by August 15th to be in the Big 10 in 2025.
Yeah, I think you're going to get it by August
June,
15th.
July. Yeah,
I think you're going to get it by August 15th. I'm thinking May. I'm thinking May, June.
Okay. So you're right there, a little ahead of me. I love it. Yeah, I think we're pretty much in accordance there. Yeah, but yeah, I agree with everything you said there, except for the part about I'm a little bit more pessimistic about March 22nd. But I sure hope you're right. My percentage is a little bit lower, but what she's talking about on March 22nd would be huge. If they decide, North Carolina decides that they're going to reward FSU with its motion to dismiss and just throw the whole thing out, which really is that would be amazing. But even if, like Jen's saying, if they just stay it to see what happens in Florida, still a big deal. Still love it. And you love seeing super chats come in. We really love that stuff around here. So Ryan Wiley, I think I ask him every time if it's Wiley or Willie. Sorry, bro. Jen and George, what do you think about people saying that there's a chance that the FSU could go to the SEC? I'll let you take this one first.
Of course, there's a chance. There's a chance that Colin Farrell from 1997 is going to marry me. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. I think it would be ridiculous for the SEC to allow Florida State to leave their backyard and go to the Big Ten and give the Big Ten this huge jump in revenue, this huge jump. Of course, it would be ridiculous. But what the SEC would have to do to make Florida State make a different decision, because I think all of Florida State's moves in the last couple of years have been towards the Big Ten. We talked about this. And I also think Florida State doesn't have a lot of interest in going to another place where they're going to be treated like the redheaded stepchild that they were in the ACC, which is exactly what they would be in the SEC. The SEC, I'm not, everybody knows I am a Nole through and through. I see everything through garnet colored glasses.
Sorry, guys.
But the SEC doesn't exactly need Florida State. The only thing the SEC doesn't want is for Florida State to go to the Big Ten. The SEC is not, look, so it's not a valued thing for them. The Big Ten looks at Florida State like it's new, shiny pet that you just want to hold that pet and you want to squeeze it till its head pops off, right? That's perfect. That's what we need. We need that love. We are an abused woman, abused man who have not been loved, who need to be in a relationship and just be. We need that person to be obsessed with us. And I don't even care if it's borderline, dateline stalking. Be obsessed. Follow us, need us all the time, be clingy. That's what we need. That's what we need.
Yeah, sorry guys. Sometimes I like to let you guys get to hear the matrix, the stream of information that runs into my head. But no, man, when you're trying to produce and do these shows at the same times, every once in a while, even though your volume says it's at 0, it's at 100, or you get thrown onto the screen and it turns into
How did I
But
go
no,
psycho? I didn't go
I don't know.
psycho.
There ain't no telling. We're both psycho. People don't get us. That's fine. Our friends love us. Whatever. It's hard. A lot of times with the chat, people are like, they're probably like listening to some part 20 minutes ago or something. But, let's see.
I like
here.
Irish dark-haired men. I didn't know that.
I totally messed up what the hell you were talking about. I see our guy, KP is in the chat. Is that him calling? Is that him calling? I think that's our boy right here calling in. And he's gonna have some funny shit to say. I just know it, man. Do you need the introduction? Is this Tiny Hat Gang?
Man, listen. Yes. Listen, the Tiny Hat Gang, the CEO has returned to the Renegade Rundown. First off, what's up, George? How you doing? Jen, beautiful as always. Loving what I'm seeing up here. Here's my 2 cents on this, and this is very simple out here, okay? The ACC is mad. It's just like that meme that you always see on the internet, okay? Florida State is the dude walking down the street with his average-looking girlfriend, which is the ACC, and we see a big baddie go walk by us, and we're like, oh, snap, this is what we're looking for over here, okay? The ACC is mad that Florida State realized that their back shots and missionary feel exactly the same because the ACC is built like a 2x4, and the Big Ten is walking by us with a big, voluptuous body. She's got beautiful hair. She's got family money, so we can go over there and lay back in her hammock in the backyard, sip us a couple of Mai Tais or Bellini. Shout out to Jen. And we are back there trying to enjoy ourselves, okay? The ACC is a bunch of haters, and they don't want to let us go. They're trying to do anything that they can to make our reputation look bad to all of the other baddies out here on the block, and they can't handle the fact that we have receipts. We got receipts. We found out that while we were asleep, she was digging through our pants, going through our wallet, checking our phone, putting the phone up to our face while we were knocked out asleep over here. And they mad that we said, you know what? We don't have time for this. We can go over here where we got the better life. We can go over here where we're appreciated and we're not going to be talked down to. We'll go over here where we're not being undermined by a better looking female over here. You need to go do something with yourself, ACC. Okay? Go and dye your hair. Go to the gym. Get your summer body right, whatever it is that you got to do. Throw on a waist trainer. We don't care what you got to get going on, but we need you to get away from us. Okay, we are moving on. We are like Maya back in 1999. We're moving on. That's what we doing right now. We're getting the hell up out of here. Okay, we out here looking so fabulous. We got Cisco trying to come and be in our videos right now. That's what we got going on. And the ACC is mad that they stuck over there listening to some old chubby checker from the 1940s or 50s. That's what they doing. So I just wanted to say the ACC can kick rocks. The Big Ten needs to go ahead and open their arms up to us while we put our faces right there in between that beautiful non-Mario Cristobal cleavage that they got going on up there, and we will enjoy our lives riding off into the sunset of the Big Ten. That's what we gonna do out here in these streets. Tiny Hat Gang, we out.
Let's go, man. Tiny Hat said, we're looking for Megan Fox and not that chick from Jennifer's Body. We're looking for the blonde-haired Megan Fox, not the one where the snag's gonna eat the whole thing. So if y'all haven't seen that, go watch Jennifer's Body and you'll know what I'm talking about. I think that's what it's called. Oh, my word.
Yeah, my young kids one time was like, "Hey, Mom, this movie has your name. Can we watch it?" I was like, No, you cannot.
No, definitely don't watch that one if you're not into scary movies or whatever you want to talk about.
Thank you, Tiny Hat.
Absolutely. We appreciate you calling in. We're going to have to slip him some bread, get him like on every single episode.
Oh, my God.
It's quickly becoming my favorite segment on the show.
What did I tell you? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, man. He's the best. Jen, Jen's always right. We know these things. We have fun and I argue in the moment, but then we get to come back and find out later how I was wrong. That's just how it goes. I see you talking about Bellinis in the chat. That's one thing you'll figure out. Jen loves her some Bellinis as well. I'm trying to find the question somebody asked while I was talking. Oh, yeah. Almighty Finn. He's talking to somebody. I missed what you're replying to, but he says, you're tripping if you don't think FSU is getting their full share. And this is something I read in those different stories that Ross Dellinger did and stuff. I wanted to speak on this before I forget. What they're trying to do with the Power 2 versus the ACC and the Big 12 when it comes to a revenue split, the SEC will get 58, the SEC and Big 10 will get 58% of the $1.3 billion. Now, I believe it's by team on which one has it. So like the Big 10 may have more because they have more teams, or the SEC, I think it's on a per team basis. So when you take that 58 million and divide it by 30 whatever teams, but for basic simplicity, we'll divide 58 by 2, and that's 29. Yeah, 29% each. The SEC gets 29% and the Big 10 gets 29%, which is compared to a 30% that the ACC and the Big 12, 30 or 31% that we have to split. And so when you look at that, that's cutting a gigantic percentage. Basically 100% of, ACC and Big 10 would get 100% more than what we get. So when you look at that on top of the disparity we already have just in the overall payouts on the TV contracts, it just adds a whole nother layer and makes FSU exponentially get behind on the millions year in and year out. And so it's something that just cannot happen. And when you look at the unequal revenue sharing, basically what the Big 10 and the SEC are forcing the NCAA, the college football playoff, to do is exactly what Michael Alford tried to get Clemson and these other 7 teams to force the ACC to do this year. True unequal revenue sharing, because if they did that, they could literally pay everybody what they're worth. They could play FSU and Clemson both around the $80-90 million mark, and then go on down the list to the bottom where Wake Forest makes 25 or 30 or whatever they deserve.
Yeah, I think also Florida State's going to get a full share with the Big 10. I don't even think they're going to even pick up the phone for the SEC unless the SEC is offering a full share, because they're going to get that from the Big 10. I think we already know that. I think we've already reported that, and I think that's just the way it's going to be, because the Big 10 actually wants Florida. The Big 10 didn't offer Oregon and Washington a full share because they had that market. They don't need them.
They pulled off a Hail Mary getting in.
Yeah, and honestly, the recruiting, the location, the this, the that, where are the championships? What's this? Yeah, Washington does, but Oregon, that O stands for how many trophies? 0. So again, yeah, y'all can sit here and you can say, oh, Florida State's not going to get a full share to the Big 10. They absolutely are. They 100% are. The Big 10 wants into Florida so bad they can't stand it. So yes, they are going to get a full share. The Pac-10, 12, whatever the fuck their former location is called, those teams can get mad if you want to, but you're not as valuable. Sorry, not sorry. Thank you. I don't know what else to say about that.
I love it. Hey, I agree.
Yeah.
Get it out there. And again, guys, we love you guys. We're at 1 hour and 18 minutes. We'll probably call this one 1 hour and a half. We'll cut it off equal 1 hour and a half. So that gives you 12 minutes, guys. Make some calls, questions, bring up whatever you want us to talk about. We try to cover it all, get into it all. But there's only so much you can do, in 1 hour and a half. But we absolutely love talking to you guys. But yeah, I agree. Oregon, Washington, they were desperate. Their conference was collapsing. They had to find a landing spot. Of course, they were a big part of it, but the writing was on the wall. That is what Florida State's trying to avoid, not being in that position where they have to say, oh, we'll do whatever. Big 10 will get on your knees and, suck your thing. No, it's like Jen was alluding to. It's the other way around. There will be some sort of bidding war at some point. SEC will try to make a play. They're going to be offering things for us. Now, is there a chance they could try to play their cards, and once they could deal in bad faith, and SEC or Big 10, whichever one it is, could try to put the screws to FSU and do something or whatever. They take something reduced for a year, like the first year, something. Yeah. But to the level of what Michigan, Washington and stuff. Yeah, I agree with Jen. She's probably right, and it won't be any reduction at all. But yeah, it would be something minor if it was.
So I think the only way there's going to be a reduction is if Florida State and Fox or the Big Ten make a deal as far as buying that grant of rights back, depending on how the court cases go.
There you go.
That is exactly how I could see there being a reduction. If that does not happen, Florida State's getting a full share, and it's going to hurt some feelings. But, you know, those on that West Coast, they're probably used to having their feelings hurt and complaining about it. So we'll hear about it. Maybe you can protest. Make up a new Chaz or something in Seattle. Do something else. I don't care. Y'all do whatever you need to do. Go win some championships, and then you'll get a full share. Okay. Thank you.
Yep, I agree. And Adongbe says the ACC is looking like 2 years away from the Pac-12, and I don't disagree. And that's the difference. Florida State is trying to do this thing 2 years before it blows up. If Oregon and Washington, or particularly Oregon, would have bolted to the Big Ten when, say, Maryland did, or maybe, you know, a couple years before everything went to shit in the Pac-12, maybe they wouldn't have had to agree to such shitty terms. Maybe they could have got a full share from the jump, you know, yada, yada. But absolutely, man, I love this show. I love talking FSU football. I love arguing with Jen. I love agreeing with Jen. We love talking shit. So this is so much fun. We're going to go for about another 9 minutes. So guys, get those questions in, keep them in. We can talk shit about Miami. We can say screw the SEC. We can do whatever you want to do. Big Ten is currently salivating to get FSU on the board. Our boy Ayer Rouse says, and there's no doubt about that one bit.
Yeah. So we could talk about another thing where we were right on that we talked about. What was it? Maybe a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago.
I like that. I like being right.
Who gave y'all this story about how Lane Kiffin was the first choice if Mike Norvell went to Tuscaloosa? Was that on camera? I believe it was.
I think it was Jennifer that came with that. Yeah.
I think we both talked about it. I'm just saying, I love how now all of a sudden, oh, yes, of course, this is exactly what was going to happen because ESPN had it. Babies, we talked about this a month ago. If y'all were listening to the show, go pull it down.
Both.
Yeah. We said it. We said it.
We don't break news around here like constantly. That's not our thing. You know, we talk to people, we read the tea leaves, we read the same stuff y'all read as well. And we just, when we know something to be true, we have something solid that we believe, we say it with confidence and we let y'all know. And that's why we've had a big bit of success here. But we got another caller coming in.
I have a little bit. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, man. You're live on the Renegade Rundown.
Oh, yeah, man. I just want to say I love the show. Fuck Miami and Florida and Clemson, all of them. I hate Orange, especially the Tennessee Vols. That's again.
That shit'll make you sick, won't it?
Oh, man. I got a brother. He is a diehard Tennessee fan, and when I go to their games, oh man, I'm sick in there. I gotta get drunk.
Hold on, you go to the Tennessee games with old boy?
Oh man, I just give them satisfaction sometimes. I done been there when they lost to Georgia State one time. I was there with them.
The Lord have mercy.
Like, y'all thought this was a scrimmage? It's a real game.
Absolutely, man. Well, we appreciate you calling in. If you don't have any question, we'll let you go. But if you do have a question, feel free to get that in as well real quick.
I'm like this. It's not really a question, but I'm just like, y'all, like, we really need to get to the Big Ten. So, look, we can really showcase our talent and be the true Death Star that we are. We are the best. Go Noles. Love y'all.
Appreciate it, man. Go Noles.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Love it. Love it. It's all about the Noles, baby. And I agree. FM, FFM, anything orange, Clemson, Florida, Miami, Tennessee. It's all nasty stuff.
Yeah,
all nasty stuff. Boom. Back to back. Sorry, Jen. You're live with Renegade Rundown. Go ahead.
Hey there. So I just have a question. I'm wondering, who do you guys think is going to be our like hated rival when we go to the Big Ten? Who do you think we are going to be the most anti and pro Florida State?
So first of all, this is an amazing question. Thanks for calling in. What's your name?
My name's Stephanie.
Stephanie, nice to meet you. I will say you have the clearest phone line of anybody that's ever called into the show. It's like crazy.
Absolutely.
We're going to answer that one, and I love that question. Thanks, Stephanie.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank
That
you. I love
line
that
was
question too.
Did you hear how clear that was? That was
Yeah,
nuts.
I feel like we're like sitting at the beach or something, and like all the birds, like you were like Snow White waking up out of a nice sleep, and like everything just seemed perfect. Her area just like seemed like you were like at the Garden of Eden or something. It was so clear. Do you see what I'm going with that? Like it was just,
Right?
It was amazing.
No, I agree. I'll start off first. She said like which kind of team you would love to play and hate to play. I would love to play Ohio State if I had to pick a rival that was like Clemson, of somebody that, you know, you kind of respect, not the head coach, but you kind of respect the program and you want to, you know, you get excited for that game. It kind of decides who's top dog in the conference year in, year out. I would agree with Ohio State, and I've got to say that because I've said it over and over. And again, Ohio State's 0-3 against Florida State, so there's that little thing there too. The second one's a little bit more tricky. A team that I would hate to play, I think it would probably end up being Iowa, just because I hate them teams that slow down the game and they take the ball out of your hands and it comes down to like, you know, 4 possessions, and just if one freaky thing happens on one kickoff, that's it. It's like you're pretty much rolling the dice. So those would probably be my two, Iowa and Ohio State. But what do you have for Stephanie's question? Who's going to be your most hated rival and most fun team to play?
Well, I would say the most fun team to play would be Michigan.
That'd be a great one.
I think that would be fun. I think that the most hated rival is actually going to end up being Oregon.
You know, I didn't know that about you till I just started talking about Oregon on one day on here, and you like lit into my ass for like 20 minutes of a segment. You kept picking on me. I was like, what?
Yeah.
All I did was say they're pretty like, yeah. So yeah, I see that. We had a good one on them.
Yeah, I think it's going to be because it was the way those fans treated Jameis, and you know, Jameis is off limits as far as I'm concerned, and I will turn into Mama Bear times 20,000 point. You know, I mean, it's ridiculous. The way that those fans treated him, the stuff they were saying. You know, I just think Oregon fans have this inflated head. You know, they've never won anything. They don't really do anything. They don't move the needle. They just, yes, Oregon. I mean it, Oregon. Because they haven't won anything. They're lippy. And I just think that's what the Big Ten's going to do. Yeah, I do. I could see the Big Ten doing an Oregon rivalry, or y'all meet me here, Penn State. I could see it being Penn State too. I think those are going to be the two that they're going to try and maneuver around. But I think the hatred's already there with Oregon.
Yeah, I love that. And just, you know, either any way you want to look at it, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, everybody but Iowa, those are all great games. And Iowa still would be a good game, but whatever. Ryan Wiley, he came with another $5 super chat. I forgot to read this one earlier. Think of the, excuse me. Oh no, I'm wrong. It's not Wiley. So think of the legal document, not the cartoon coyote. So not Wiley. Ryan, what's the legal document that looks like Willie? There's a legal document called Willie? Oh, like a will.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I got you. Will E. I got you. Okay, so
Yeah.
Ryan, Willie, we got you, bro. I guess I could have just used phonics. That second L tells
Wiley
us.
would only have one L.
It's just hard to see
darling.
on my screen, but yeah, you're absolutely right. I thought usually with names, it's the opposite of phonics sometimes. But I digress. But yeah, I love that answer. We're getting late, guys. We're probably about to cut this thing off, and I hate to do it. We've got a ton of people. This has been a lot of fun.
This has been a fun show.
But yeah, get a question in. Or Jen, if you have anything you want to bring up before we get out of here.
Other than being right about the Lane Kiffin stuff, which, you know, we're going to continue to beat that drum because we did say that a month ago and nobody else said it, but that's fine.
Well, people seem to think
I-
he won't leave Ole Miss. Like, there's like a group of people,
That's-
especially Ole Miss people, that think he wouldn't leave there to go to
Oh
Florida
my
State.
God.
It's like,
Well, yeah, Ole
you're
Miss
just
people came back at
so
me,
delusional.
and I had to tell them that the only like Mike Norvell turned down Ole Miss to come to Florida State. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Lane Kiffin, guys. I'm sorry. I'm gonna say this one time and one time only, because I've been preaching the same thing for years. Lane Kiffin would crawl on broken glass to get a Florida job.
Period. Florida, Miami, Florida State. I mean, he misses
Lane
FAU being at Ole Miss.
Kiffin,
I promise you.
yes,
Think about it.
yes.
He got as much talent at FAU as he does
Hell
at Ole
yeah.
Miss. I'm not hating because he is killing in the portal. Don't get me wrong. Like, it's not like
But
Mike
you're
Norvell
still
is
Ole
the
Miss.
flashy
You're
recruiter guy. But
still Ole Miss, and you're still, when you drive into Oxford off of I-10, as soon as you hit Oxford,
Yeah.
there's a huge Confederate flag that is
They ain't
the
won shit.
size. Yeah, I mean,
Cotton
I'm
Bowls. That's like
sorry.
their
Yeah.
call to grace. They did like a 30-30
Ole
on
Miss-
Eli Manning. They won 10 games and went to the Cotton Bowl. It's like, woo.
Hey, here's another thing for Ole Miss fans, and this is something you may not want to hear, but I don't think Mike Norvell would have left Memphis for Ole Miss.
No. He didn't.
No.
I mean, he literally didn't. He
No.
waited. He could have went there after year 2
Yeah.
or 3. He could have took jobs like that. He waited for the
could have
Florida State job.
taken-
He waited
he
till
could
he
have
was
had the-
tip top.
He could have had the Arkansas job. He turned down the Arkansas job. He turned down the Ole Miss job. He was up for the Tennessee job, did not get it. But again, the Ole Miss, like, I don't know what they put in the water in Oxford. Most of the people that, are Ole Miss fans all live in Memphis. Nobody lives in Oxford. Nobody stays in Oxford. Nobody even wants to be in Oxford. It's really terrible. It's not even no. That DJ Ferg, this is not just your opinion. This is anybody who watches football's opinion. FSU to Ole Miss is, wait, what? Ole Miss to FSU is not a lateral move. You're right. That's a bump up. Like, FSU to Ole Miss is we're not even talking lateral move. You're talking down.
That's what he's saying, Jen.
Oh,
He's agreeing with you.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
You work yourself up sometimes. People just he's saying you go, girl.
Yeah. Okay. I was just like, wait, why do we have to use all these words? Just say, hey, I'm right. Okay. I love you though. I do love you.
Yeah, y'all need to give Jen some more love out there, okay? A little bit trying to confuse somebody with some shit. Just say you go, girl. But Ayer Rao, this is a great, and I know that's probably wrong. Ayer Rao, there's no way that's right.
You're a lot better at pronouncing than me.
Ayer Raye, maybe. That's okay. Or is it Ayer Rao? Like I said the first time. Either way, when did George officially become an FSU fan? Jen answered earlier. Circa what year? Give us a story, please. So this is a fun one. This is cute. I was like, I was a baby.
Mm-hmm.
It was the season, and I'm fuzzy on this, you guys, but it was somewhere around the Snoop Menace, Peter Warwick era, in like 97 or 98, 99, in that time zone because I was born in 91. So we're talking 3rd, 4th grade when it was Snoop Menace. That was the name that stuck with me. Snoop was my guy. And I'll never forget, I believe it was the game against Tennessee, maybe, that he couldn't play due to grades or some BS. And I swear up and down we would have won the game if he'd have been in there.
I almost won the game. We were playing something called the Rooster.
Game. I can't remember. Yeah. But yeah, Snoop Menace, that was my dude. And it was playing tackle football, as elementary school kids do with your buddies and talking about the games and stuff like that. That was it. That's what got me started in playing. Like, I don't know if they had an NCAA on N64 back in the day, but that was it. The starter pants with the spear, going all the way down it, and Florida State hats and shit. Like, that was, that's what you had to wear to be cool going to East Milton Elementary School back in the day. So that's where it all started, and I never flipped. Unfortunately, a lot of the little kids that were all Florida State back in that day, because in the 90s, that's what it was. It was Florida State. Everybody was a Florida State fan. A lot of them are Alabama fans or Ole Miss fans or Auburn fans. And you people out there, you know where you're at. So, anyways, we love you guys. We will see you guys. When are we going to see Friday at 7
Friday.
Eastern. I will be on The Voice of College Football tomorrow at 6 Eastern. Make sure y'all catch Spear Addicts at Thursday at 8 Eastern.
Yeah.
Make sure, or not, 8 Eastern, 8 or 9 Eastern.
Spear Addicts will be on Wednesday too, though, right?
On The Voice of College
Or no?
Football. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wait, I
I'm
thought
not-
he did a show on Wednesday. No? Okay, sorry.
No,
Sorry.
The Voice of College Football. But there's some more stuff I was gonna say. That's it. We love you guys. We will see you next time. Go Noles. And I'm gonna do this right here. Kirk, he had a request. He had a song request. We're gonna play. This is my favorite song. Kirk says. And here we go.
Hey man, FSU versus everybody. Let go. First off, fuck Bama in the road tide. Fuck Tuscaloosa in every city that's close by. Bitch ass hillbilly redneck fans. Auburn almost caught y'all slacking like dress pants. Michigan trash, they ain't got a damn chance. Only Wolverine I respect is X-Man. Keen ass coach got exposed, still in plays. Damn right I'm bitter, y'all sweeter than lemonade. Texas ain't shit to rave about. The lone